The Fruitful Entrepreneurs podcast aims to increase the visibility of female leaders in business, inspire a limitless mindset to build your own blooming brand, and leave a positive impact with a purpose-driven business. Okay, welcome to the Fruitful Entrepreneur podcast. I'm your host, Shelley Tilbrook, and today I'm joined by female founder, Vinita Baravkar. Vinita's primary background is in health, and she has a master's in international public health. She saw firsthand the disastrous health and environmental impacts of traditional cotton growing, with farmer suicides, child labour, pesticide poisoning, birth defects, harmful dyes, and toxic waterways. After years in the field meeting with amazing NGOs, grassroots organisations, and a growing movement of organic farmers, it was time for positive change. Vinita combined her deep love for the earth, humanity, and sustainable design to create Bhumi organic cotton, a journey which began with a simple yet powerful mission to create organic cotton bedding, bath, and basics that not only feel good, but do good. So today we're going to be discussing finding your purpose, environmental sustainability, along with product development and running a business. So firstly, welcome Vinita to the Fruitful Entrepreneurs podcast.
Thank you so much. It's really wonderful to be here. Thank you.
Fantastic to have you. Before we dive into the specifics of business, let's hear about your background before starting a business. What sort of jobs, expertise and experience you had?
Absolutely. So my life actually started in nursing. So I was a paediatric nurse at the Children's Hospital here in Melbourne. And I really loved working with kids and families, in particular, talking about health aspects and the health promotion, all those sorts of things. So I got really interested in health education, health promotion. So I went on to do my master's in international public health, thinking I would possibly have the opportunity to work in Africa and places that I thought, but the universe had different plans. So my background's in health, and I found my way into the world of retail, which is an interesting journey.
Yeah, fantastic. I love that you saw a problem in an industry that you both had the experience, expertise and knowledge in, and you went about finding ways to create positive change. So tell us how the idea began and how that evolved into, well, you're going to start a business to run.
Absolutely. So it was interesting because I was based in New York, but sent to different countries, and I was sent to a lot of the regional posts in India and across into Calcutta. And I was seeing health issues and very excited going in, and I thought I knew everything about organic food because the movement back then was all about, what organic food and juices, and being in New York, I was like, yep, I'm in the hub of everything I know. I didn't really think about textiles, and it wasn't talked about. We didn't hear about it as much. So I went in to different projects, looking at different things, but seeing the same patterns across what's called the suicide belts. So it's the agricultural zones across India, and for me, what I saw in up into Calcutta. And it was spending time in the field, listening to stories and seeing firsthand that you're going in almost like with blinkers on to address a problem, a very much needed health issue for that area. But it was like, I liken it to peeling back an onion. You just strip off one layer and you keep peeling, and all these issues were coming through, and it all pointed towards issues towards the textile industry. And I was shocked. Initially, I thought, okay, maybe it's just in one zone, but it was across each zone. So what I learned was that the textile industry, again, something that wasn't seen of or heard about, talked about in mainstream media, there were all these issues, and the issues that still are prevalent but really took me by surprise, because we're going in to look at some specific health issue, but we're spinning off into dealing with other health issues, and we're thinking, scratching our brains, thinking, where's this coming from? So pesticide poisoning, skin disorders, children who are stillborn in areas where there was a lot of chemical exposure from the pesticides in the soils and the water system. So we're looking at every angle, and it was just almost like my whole world of what I thought I knew, especially about the textile industry. I was having an impact in it just by the choices I was making of what I was wearing, had these really strong undercurrents of pesticide poisoning, so land degradation, so not only environmental impacts, but social impacts, with the biggest one for me was child labour. Seeing impacts of that firsthand with families and mothers and aunties who have lost their children, or children were taken to work in the fields. It was just issues that I found it really hard to comprehend that this was actually going on, and I was seeing it. And the other big one is farmer suicides. Unfortunately, the numbers are increasing. It's not something that's decreasing. The good thing, there is global awareness and dialogue now within the textile industry, and the demand for organic farming is increasing, which is fantastic. But the issues are still there, that with the farmer suicides, the impact of that on families, how they have to survive, what they have to do, bonded labour, all of these things, it just fractured my thoughts and what I saw and knew, but only to rebuild. So I felt I took it as okay, it's shattered everything that I know, but how do I pick up those pieces and create something different? Like, for me, I really feel change is about, when I see the earth, I see it as two very equal components. We have the environmental, but we have social justice issues, and together they go hand in hand. If we're trying to fix one but not the other, there's still that imbalance. We won't make change. So I think within that, it was over the years now, just realizing that Bhumi, which is the company that I have now, it's really about tackling both environmental and social issues, and being very strict in how we go about that process from seed to shelf.
Yeah, amazing. And you talked about, your mission to create not only things that feel good, but do good. I love that statement. Do you feel that's really sort of driven this, or inspired this purpose-driven business? And is that sort of always at the forefront of your decision making?
Absolutely. It's almost like that's our philosophy or mantra, if you like, that it's one question. Is it helping the planet and her people? If it is, great, we go forward. If it's not, can we change it so that it does? And if it can't be, we don't do it. That drives everything that we do. And I think the other big driver is seeing the world around us, but also I'm a mother to a 12-year-old daughter who's very passionate about the environment, and for her it's more the animals, but it's just through her questioning, and what am I leaving for her and her friends and then their future? What are we doing now that they can turn around and say, well, action, like there's a thought, but then there's the action part of it, that it's good to feel and understand. So education, awareness, but that drives action into change.
Yeah, fantastic. So tell us about the initial journey starting out. Did you have any skill gaps? Were you out of your comfort zone, or did it just flow naturally?
Oh, no. No, huge skill gap. Absolutely. It was like starting again. And I think that's I love that even now, years into the business, I'm still learning, and I think that's a fantastic thing. Being able to embrace change, that really shook me up, because it taught me that change is good and how to relearn everything. So for me, it was, yes, a huge skill gap. I had to learn I was in a health silo, jumping into a world of retail, and then even now, post-COVID, going into e-commerce, which was a completely different strategy. So initially, the journey really was for me finding what were the options, first of all, for if it's not cotton, what are the options? What's actually going on that does actually help the planet? So working with, at the time, it was just a small band of organic farmer movement and a co-op. And now to look back and see that band has increased quite large due to the demand globally. It was finding the right partners, supply chains, people to work with. And that took time because, again, for me, it's being strict environmentally and with social justice issues for fair trade and ethical work conditions with no child labour. It was finding out, okay, there are 5 different certification bodies, but which one actually will help drive far-reaching change, which one is strict. So that took time to learn and understand. So that was fantastic because that was like the foundation pieces that need to happen for the business. So it was learning from the beginning, changing my whole mindset from health into retail, learning about, gosh, even when we had the stores, I had anxiety about how do I use the FPOS machines, like all these sorts of things that tell me I could do any surgical procedure, no problems, but give me an FPOS machine, what do I do? Like, little things like it's learning. And now, as I mentioned, going into the e-commerce post-COVID, a whole new skill set of learning about websites and backends and SEO and all of these drivers that we're dealing with, but it's changing with the time. So I think continual evolution of learning is essential for business. When you're launching on a business, don't think that that's the start and the end. It's the start to learn and continually learn. It's like climbing a mountain. You've just got to keep going. There'll be moments where you can plateau, but you've got to learn. You've got to keep climbing that mountain.
Amazing. So you've talked a lot about creating positive environmental and social impact. Some stats on your website, you've got a couple of listed there. 91 million of drinking water saved, 1.7 million of driving emissions avoided, and 825,000 metres squared of land farmed without pesticides. So to get these sort of statistics, is that completely reinventing the production process, or is it just making small conscious changes to be able to get that sort of impact for your business?
Yeah, I think it's both. I think by understanding the differences between organic farming versus conventional or regular farming and what that entails. So when we talk about cotton, we get this a lot. People say, but cotton uses a lot of water as a plant. So it's just pulling back the layers of it and understanding at each level, you've got the systemic changes and infrastructure changes. But our difference is we're working with nature. So we work with monsoon rains. So we harvest monsoon rain. So it's talking about it as well, that we're saving water because it's organic, but we're also working with an infrastructure that is nature, as opposed to creating new infrastructure that will deplete other areas. So it's almost like having that understanding of to make these impacts of know, for example, the emissions in the textile industry. Unfortunately, the textile industry as a whole is one of the largest contributors to CO2 emissions. A lot of people don't know that fact. So everything that we buy that goes on our skin, or what we sleep in, or the towels that we use, is having an impact on the environment. So when we look at the emissions from how you produce a textile, it's not only in, like, say, bamboo, for example, understanding that big, sturdy, strong plant, when you get it into a fabric, all the processing that has to go on in the in-between phases, no one talks about that. but that's where the CO2 emissions happen, the toxic dyes happen, the chemical release into waterways, which is affecting our oceans. So it's really stripping back the layer of each step of the way. So for Bhumi, we call it our seed to shelf journey. So we know as a business at any one point in time, we can go to the farms and the factories that we work with and know that from the minute we have the seed and it's planted in the ground, there are no toxic pesticides, chemicals, dyes at any point in the journey from seed to finished product. And that's I think one of the biggest detriments with a lot of global bigger companies, not knowing who the middleman is in the middle part. So they might know, yes, we start off with this and here's the end product, but that in between process to get from seed to shelf, there's a lot of outsourcing, and a lot of people couldn't tell you the traceability of that product. So I think knowing the steps and learning for us, it was about learning those steps and then making sure that at each point, at those touch points, we know what's going on. And then we know for relatable statistics like that, we know the amount of water, we know the amount of CO2 emissions that are being saved. We know that there are zero pesticides and toxic dyes used. And I think that's a really big one when it comes to textile industries. And our platform at the moment really is about education and awareness that I might have thought linen is an excellent fabric. Yes, it is, but it needs to be organic linen that's certified by the right body, because fewer pesticides versus zero pesticides. Zero pesticides is where we make the change, not with fewer pesticides, because it's still pesticides that's affecting the land and waterways and all the workers and then us as consumers. So
and it's a massive, like you say, it's a massive education process for the consumer, because I think if the consumer was fully aware, they would make that conscious choice. But there's a lot of I suppose lack of knowledge or lack of awareness. Like if you think of the food industry, a lot of things have symbols and things that people are looking for to consciously buy now, but clothing is probably not there yet. And so you really are sort of breaking new ground with what you're doing. It's amazing. Thinking back to sort of, I suppose, business type questions, if you looked at your first 12 months and the stages you went through there, are there things that you would have done differently? Did you start out solo? Did you seek investors, or were you sort of looking at getting a partner on board? Tell us about those first 12 months.
So we are self-funded, and I think that's also a journey in itself. We're very happy that we are now self-funded. So initially, I'll say I started the business and now my husband's on board. So he's my business partner. So we had to go through the motions of, learning about what is good for our business, because everyone is different. And there was the investor dialogue and there was self-funded dialogue. I'm very much about, I wanted to keep it in-house and wanted to keep that decision making, especially because I'd seen and heard a lot of other businesses, the minute investors were on board, the whole business changed, and I didn't want that because it was very new and I still feel like we've just started, even though we haven't. So that was a big learning process in itself. And I think one of the things I feel really happy about is that through those learnings, we had to realize that for us, self-funded works, and what are the other mechanisms. So we work with revenue-based finance models and traditional banks. So for us, that model works. But I think one of the limitations, so to speak, is understanding that with our business and the model, because it's organic cotton, it's quite niche. So having that, when you have a smaller supply and knowing that you need all this upfront investment to make those payments, to get the product here, to then market it and all of that, that's a that's a life cycle in itself. So we've had to it's taken a few years to understand that journey. And there was a point where we did have to tick that box and say, okay, let's go down the investor route. And what would that be? So before signing anything, and I'm glad it didn't go through, one thing I'd say to a lot of people and business owners and people starting their journey, listen to yourself, listen to that intuition, so to speak, because my intuition was saying absolutely no. And the stress that caused, I ended up in hospital. And my husband was like, I'll never ask again. So we didn't sign. We are self-funded, and for us that works. And we're finding that the revenue-based finance models are really working for us. And I think it's been a process of understanding. And within those first 12 months, if I could do it differently, I would say what would be really ideal is if you had all your website and socials and community pre-launching your idea. That would be fantastic, because we've done it the other way, where we've had the idea, then we test the idea, we see what people are feeling, and it's grown that way. So it's had an organic growth, you could say. But if I could do it again within those first 12 months, I would have it already beforehand, website, get that excitement out there, get some influencers on board, get the socials talking, get that dialogue happening, and then launch. So that's something I would definitely do differently if I had to do it in the first.
It certainly is. It's easier to launch to an audience than launch to no one.
Exactly.
Results quicker. I've learned that lesson too. No, that's great. And aside from, obviously whether you go down an investor route or self-funded, have there been other challenges that you've faced along that journey, or what's some of the challenges you've had to overcome?
I think one of the biggest ones I'd say would be supply chain. Understanding our supply chain is different. It is a slow fashion movement. It's not the fast fashion, fast textile movement. So understanding that that can cause a lot of roadblocks and delays, and then you're just hanging in limbo, and you may not be selling at that point because the product's not here. So I think that's been one of the biggest challenges, is ironing out that, making sure we have the upfront investment beforehand, understanding that this lead time, the crops have grown, the rains did come. So it's a very different model to fast fashion. So it's not on the ready all the time available. So I think that's been a big roadblock initially, but I think now that we've learnt the ways and the systems, and having the right partners too, because if you're strict and you're working with somebody who's not so strict, it changes everything. So making sure and ensuring that your trust, and I feel the partners that we have over the years, they're like family now, which is important. So I think that's been a big learning lesson as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And even, I suppose, thinking about any entrepreneur journey, there's many, I suppose, bold, courageous decisions that you have to make along the way.
Yes.
What was sort of, I suppose, your biggest leap of faith that you had to take, or whether it was about the investment or about a decision, but you just had to trust your instinct, or look at your decision-making process and just be courageous and move forward?
This is a funny one, actually. Initially, so I thought out, because for me, I'm very tactile, and it's all about the senses. It's about, I used to love getting customers to, when we had a store, closing their eyes and putting their hand on the different fabrics and talking to them about the feeling of it. So I just felt initially when I started Bhumi, that I wanted customers to feel the beauty of organic cotton and understand how soft, but the benefits of it along the way. So it really just started with sheets and towels. And I used to get people talking to me about underwear. Do you do underwear? And I'm like, Never entered my mind. What I never even thought about, but then it made sense. It was like, wow, of course, it's touching your skin every day. So I just closed my eyes and I said, okay, we're going to start underwear, and we launched this idea, and I'm so happy we did, because it's one of our best sellers, and it makes sense because it is close to your skin. You breathe through it every day, all the time, and that's one of the reasons why we're also getting into kids underwear, because you don't want these toxic dyes. Like, we've seen so many customers with skin disorders, chemical sensitivities, people going through treatment and needing things with no dyes, no toxic dyes. And we're astounded at the amount of people that do actually have skin sensitivities, and then tracing it back to, wow, okay, change this, come back and tell me what you feel and what you think, for all ages, not just newborns, right through to elderly people. And it's the fabrics that we surround ourselves in that are breathing, and our skin is so it absorbs so quickly. It's very thin, and it makes sense. When it's warm, it takes 6 seconds for whatever you're putting onto your skin to go straight into your bloodstream.
Wow.
So when you come out of the shower or you're asleep at night, your skin is taking it all in straight into your bloodstream. So if you've got toxic substances that you don't know about and you're sleeping with that, it will cause things that we've seen, and even WHO have said with regards to toxic dyes. Greenpeace is doing amazing campaigns about the toxic dyes in fabrics, but they say, WHO states that so many of the dyes that are used in fabrics are carcinogenic. They lead to hormone disruption. They lead to irritation, dermatitis, eczema. We're seeing so many things, and to be able to offer that to people as a solution for issues that they might not have thought about is affecting them is fantastic. So I just feel there's so much that I just want to share with people just to help solve issues, and it could be things like that. That's why the underwear one was a leap of faith, but it spun off into, wow, okay, for now, Bhumi is about everything that touches your skin. So we say home, but home is your physical home, but as well as your body is your home. So if we can provide your home with certified organic products that have zero toxic pesticides and dyes, I feel happy knowing I'm not giving you something that is harmful to you. I also know it's not hurting the planet, and I also know it's not hurting the people along the way in that journey. So that's where the focus is, just being able to keep providing those products to people to help.
Yeah, amazing. And I would never have really considered, the dyes in your clothing to be seeping their way into your body. So yeah, that's certainly something for people to be more aware about.
Yeah.
And I love that you evolved, I suppose, what set out as an idea in a particular product range has evolved. Is there anything that you're working on at the moment, or the expansion of the range is continuing?
Absolutely. At the moment, I feel a gap in the market is teenagers. So my daughter is my test, you could say. There's not much out there for her. So we want to just fill the gap there. So we're working on a range for teenagers or tweens, so 8 to 14. And knitwear, we're finding a lot of knitwear is got synthetic blends, or, for us, it's about not working with products that are not animal-based. So we are launching very soon a knitwear line that will grow. We'll have a summer range as well as a winter range, and just to provide people with those options that is an organic option that doesn't have the toxic dyes and pesticides, and no synthetic blends, because we're finding the synthetic materials is really wreaking havoc, especially for our oceans and our waterways. So we want to really break that and change that tack in the textile industry, that we don't need to blend our products with plastic, and we don't need to wear it, and it doesn't need to end up in our oceans and affect the waterway and the supply chain there. So definitely looking at knitwear. And we're also we've entered as I mentioned, children's underwear, but we'll probably grow that as well, because we're seeing that there's a need, and we want to be able to provide the strict certifications and what we feel we can offer within those ranges to people. So
yeah, amazing. And I can absolutely back up your idea with tweens and teens, because
yes.
I have one and I do find it very difficult shopping for her just anything. So certainly, I haven't even explored to try and find organic stuff for her, but that sounds like an amazing opportunity for your business.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Good. That's good to hear, and it is exciting. And it's their future, and I'd like to be able to leave them with something that they can carry on and carry forward. And all the things that they're going to face and they're going to see is very different to what we're seeing now. So
and particularly, the things that we do, find for her, it's often fast fashion, which is really the worst in terms of like all the things that you're saying that the fabrics are doing. So great opportunity for you. What advice would you give to other people starting out on their entrepreneur journey, and what are, I suppose, a couple of key lessons that you would pass on?
Great question. One thing, again, hindsight, I wish we had have lent into mentors a bit more. So I would say to anyone, ask questions, don't be afraid, and there'll be a lot of business owners who are happy to share their journey. I'm more than happy to field questions, share, because I feel also if we share knowledge, we are helping each other a leg up, and it's helping helping each other, helping the planet. That's my sort of philosophy. And I feel having the mentor or asking questions and not being afraid to ask those questions, you fast track the mistake journey part of it. So I feel, yes, we've had an organic growth, but I don't think everyone needs to have that journey. So it's great to be able to have that business mentorship and ask questions, talk about possibilities, that it doesn't necessarily, especially with funding, everyone thinks investor. For some, it doesn't work that way, or there are other opportunities, there are different ways of doing things. So I think really ask questions, ask people who've been there, done that, and hopefully, business owners are able to talk to you about it. So I think mentors is a big one. And asking questions, always ask questions, just to help fast track that learning. And what you might even want to have like the roadmap before you begin, rather than, I've got a product and then, okay, how do I sell this? So learning about that, and learning at it post-COVID. I think COVID changed a lot for a lot of people. So one of our most expensive mistakes, which we didn't know about, which we wouldn't have said it was a mistake, but was opening a store, and then COVID hit. So it was like, wow, okay, all that love and effort went into that, but then to have the doors closed, that it hurt emotionally, financially, and I think, but it taught, again, you pick up the pieces through your mistakes, you learn, and built it into, wow, people shop online, and it's all about e-commerce. And so getting in that game, learning about it. And so I think, especially if you're starting a business now, e-commerce is a really big part of businesses. So talking to people who have been there, done that, attending workshops, learning about it, and getting out there and making sure you're forward planning and thinking about the future of the business and the different changing world, especially with technology that we're seeing. What does it mean for your business?
Absolutely. And obviously, COVID was a challenge for everyone, but did you find that because you were purpose-driven, you were just so determined to find a solution? And
absolutely.
We're a bit of that financial pain initially just to get the online working.
Absolutely. It was such a big shift for us. Because we initially, before that, we thought, yes, just the store, that would be great. And one store, like not even a few stores. It shifted that whole mindset into online shopping so fast. Like that was probably one of the fastest uphill battles we had to conquer to stay in the game, to stay afloat. It was like, wow, okay, this is the problem. This is the opportunity. How do we create it? So really learning about, for us then, for me in particular, learning about websites, back ends, how do we get this online shopping onto the website? What do we do? How do we do it? So implementing that. And that was fantastic in that sense, that realizing also the shift in consumer behavior. Even now, post-COVID, how many people love to shop online? It's incredible. And if you make it a seamless journey, I think that's the key. Making it an easy, your home is the change room, so to speak, and then have, free shipping returns. You've got to make it easy for customers to be able to lean into a new world of shopping online.
Yeah, absolutely. I've really enjoyed our chat today. It's been amazing how you've managed to, one, grow a business that's commercially sustainable, but also making those environmental and social impacts that your company is achieving is amazing. So where can people find you, either online or, how can they start purchasing?
All online. Our website, bhumi.com.au. At the moment, we are an Australian presence. And the goal is to also have in different geographies soon. So watch this space for that.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much for your time today. And we'll have all the details included on our website too about you. But yes, I really enjoyed learning more about how it all works. And I think you've opened my mind to what I'm wearing and making more conscious decisions. But we'll do our part to try and educate people on that as well.
Thank you so much. And thank you for having me.